Hi, y'all. Welcome back to Samantha's Beauty Confessions. I know I say this all the time, but I'm really excited about today's conversation because I am chatting with Melanie Hasson. And I've never met Melanie in person, but I reached out to her because she posted something last weekend that really hit home for me. And I know that it hit home for so many other people as well because the post went super viral. And I knew the second that I saw it in my Explore feed that this was a conversation I wanted to dive deeper into. And so I immediately reached out, asked her if she would want to come on and chat, and luckily she said yes. I don't want to give away too much, but basically in the post, Melanie talked about her experience with quote unquote fame in the industry and how it really took a toll on her mentally, physically, and even professionally. On today's episode, Melanie talks about the moment that she realized something needed to change. She opens up about the steps that she's taken to make that change happen, shares her perspective when it comes to defining success, and so much more. I feel like no matter what industry you're in, everything we talk about today is so important to discuss. I think conversations like this need to happen more frequently, and I'm just so thankful that Melanie was willing to come on and share, and I can't wait for y'all to hear everything she has to say. So I'm going to stop talking, and let's welcome Melanie to the podcast. Welcome to Samantha's Beauty Confessions, where we engage in authentic conversations and confess everything it takes to turn our dreams into a reality. Together, we'll unlock your unique beauty and guide you toward living the life of your dreams. Get ready to go beyond the highlight reel, embrace the journey, and grow together, one conversation at a time. Hi, Melanie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. I'm so excited to talk to you today. For everyone listening, Melanie and I have never met in person. This is our first time virtually meeting.
Yes, it is.
So do you want to tell everybody like where you're located and maybe how long you've been a hairstylist?
Yeah, so I'm located in Staten Island, New York, and I've been a hairstylist for 10 years now.
So we started about the same time. I actually, like full transparency, I reached out to Melanie over the weekend because she had a post that went pretty viral, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it did. Honestly, I wasn't expecting that.
Well, I'll have you kind of explain what it was here in a second, but I saw it on the Explore feed, I think, or maybe through someone else's stories. And when I was reading through it, I was just like, oh my gosh, like every single word that you wrote was so accurate. So do you want to so I don't butcher it, do you want to kind of tell everyone like what the post was and kind of your, like what made you want to share it?
Yes, I've been feeling some type of way for the past few months.
Mm-hmm.
And the past year, I've really thrown myself into social media when it comes to my career and being in the hair industry. And I've grown a lot. But the
Mm-hmm.
past few months, I've felt out of place and almost as if I'm in like the wrong room, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So, and that's not to anyone's fault. Like, it's not like it's just like a personal thing, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm never one to bash people. It's just like, I think we're kind of in this day and age where there has to be a reason for something to happen. And for me, it's just like it was an internal feeling that I've been
Mm-hmm.
feeling that I just didn't feel like I was aligning with the path that I was on. So the post in a nutshell basically just said that I've been stepping back from social media a lot lately. And the reason being is that I put a lot of my worth into the number I see on Instagram or the amount of brand deals that I get or people validating me outside of my own personal life. And I've really reflected on my own life and where I can get my own satisfaction from myself and from the people that I love that surround me instead of looking for it elsewhere. And I just see this toxic cycle on social media of people obsessing over content and brand deals and all of these things that it can be positive, but it can also fully consume your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a huge side of it that people don't talk about is that you may not like it if you get there. And as hard as I've worked, I got where I wanted to be. And I'm like, ooh, I don't like this.
Yes. everything, like if anyone's watching this video on YouTube and not just listening to the audio, I'm just like nodding my head because when I reached out to you, I mentioned that I recorded an episode that, you know, said basically the same thing in a, in my version of it. And like you said just now, I got where I wanted to go, where I had wanted to go my whole life up until that point, it felt like, And when I
Mhm.
got there, I was like, well, shit, like this is not what I thought it was going to feel like. And that doesn't mean it's bad that we got where we wanted. It kind of you kind of have to experience it to really realize like, okay, well, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And
Yes, exactly.
and I will put the link to the post in the description of today's show, so that if anybody wants to read everything, because you just articulated it so well. But basically, you had said that once brands started reaching out to you, like you felt really cool and really validated.
Yeah.
Was that a goal of yours for the past 10 years, kind of similar to me, that you always kind of wanted to be on stage and be like a platform artist?
So I never wanted to be a platform artist.
Okay.
I kind of just became one because I felt that I always wanted to be an educator.
Uh-huh.
So doing independent education was always a goal of mine. And I got there. And from doing independent education, I met a lot of people and I ended up speaking with brands, and brands want people that can go to the shows and make you a platform artist. And I think it just kind of naturally happens because I grew up a theater kid. So like I'm used to being on stage. So like I didn't really have to learn much. Like I know how to move my body the right way to like show the crowd what's going on. So it's like I think I was like an easy hire for a lot of these brands of like being a stage person because yeah, like maybe the way that I speak could be touched up as far as like hair stuff goes on, but like I do have like a little bit of a background of like presenting on stage in a way. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it just kind of fell in my lap. But I never wanted to be a platform artist. I actually went to my first hair show ever in September in my whole career.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so like
Yeah.
was your first hair show, were you teaching at that hair show, or did you go to it just as a stylist and then the teaching came later?
So I wasn't teaching at the hair show, but I was networking with a brand that was there to hopefully become a part of their team.
Okay. Yeah, and I feel like the theater side of that is definitely was a plus because for me, which I wouldn't say that I'm a platform artist either, which I think is where this world gets a little confusing, maybe is a good word. I don't know if that's the right word, but like I've grown a large following, but I've never worked directly with a brand. And so I kind of lucked out, I guess is what I say, but there was a lot of hard work in that luck. So I hate using that word.
I get that.
But I totally, like you said, I got thrown into it too. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I almost feel like I was in a tornado. Like, like I was in it and I was liking it, and the validation was like making me feel good. And before I knew it, I was so spiraled up into this tornado that I was like, wait a second, is this even is this even really what I wanted? Because I was like, where do I go from here, I guess. Is that kind of would you say that's kind of your experience too? Or what were some of the things that you started to recognize or notice in yourself that you were like, okay, this may be a little too much. I may need to start slowly pulling back.
So, you know, when they say like slow down before life makes you slow down. So I feel like that was inevitable for me because I, in a year's time, grew so much and I grew my following on Instagram so much, which gave me opportunities. It put me in the right places. Also, like you said, like luck, but luck comes with putting yourself in the right situations. And I strategically put myself in the right situations to meet the right people to get the right opportunities because I mean, I know how it works. Like you network, and if you have a good rapport with someone, they trust you, like you're going to end up in a good place sometimes. You could. And that was kind of where I was going. And I'm like an all or nothing type of person. So when I started educating and traveling, the side of things that people didn't see because I was getting so many like pats on the back from so many people of like you're growing so fast, you're doing so much, you're all over, you're this, you're that, like you're so amazing. How are you doing it? And I would always like get that question, how do you do it? And my answer was always the same. I was like, I'm single, I have no kids, and I'm not that close with my family. And like that would honestly make people feel like bad for me because I'm like, no, no, no. Like I have the time because I have it. Like I'm not going home and spending time with anyone that I love. You know, my siblings all live all over the place. I don't have like all my friends are either married or engaged or they have significant others or they have nieces and nephews and they're close to their families. Like I didn't have anything at home. So when everyone was telling me how lucky I am, and I'm just like, but I am away from home because I don't have anything keeping me there. So, and I don't open up about myself in that way at all because I don't think it's necessary for people to know. But I think in this situation, like people have always told me like you did the impossible, and I'm like because I was lacking in such a valuable part of my life. And the people that have that, people that have kids, that have a significant other, they have their family at home, and like the time they're spending with their family is time that I was spending growing my career. Like, what's more valuable? Like, I'd rather have my own personal life. I just didn't. So it's not like this glamorous thing. And that's where this post came from because I was like, the people don't understand like what was lacking in my life for me to be able to do all of this. You know, it's lonely.
It's very lonely, very, very lonely. And for me too, I grew my following really quick, the first like 100,000, I guess. And it was same as you. I don't have any kids and I was married, but my marriage was just about to go the whole opposite direction as to where I was thinking it would. And I was taking all of that built up emotion, like the hurt and the confusion and the betrayal and all the things I was going through at home. I was like, I'm not going to deal with this shit. I'm just going to channel it into my phone and I'm going to disappear for
Yep.
a little bit. And when you disappear into the social media space like that, and for anyone listening that's like done this too, you know exactly what I mean by disappear, but it's like you transport into a phone. It's so weird. It's like the world around you isn't there
Exactly.
anymore. You're just in this zone. And that's what I did. And same thing, people would be like, "How are you doing it?" And it's like, "Oh, trust me, like you don't want to be in the position that I'm in to be able to
No.
do this." So, like you said, nobody thinks of it though as that. They just see it as like this, wow, I want to be doing, what Melanie's doing and how in the heck is she doing it? Like what's the secret? And it's like, well, the secret's not always as good as it seems.
Yeah, and how much sleep did you lose?
Oh, it was my whole identity. I almost like it's kind of like kids these days. Like I almost lost social skills in a way because I was so in that zone and in that other like space, you know?
I find myself struggling sometimes now. Like I've set so many boundaries with my phone, and like I've created more of a personal life now, thank God. And I needed that. Like that could have passed me by, but luckily I was able to see the value in what was in front of me and what I
Hmm.
was missing. A few months ago, my friend came into town, and she's a really like this particular friend of mine was the one that told me to post this post that I posted. She was with me in November. We did like a weekend trip together, and she called me out on it. And she was like, "You are on your phone the whole time." And I was like, "Fuck." Like, I was like, "You're right. Like, I am." And her saying that, and I was realizing the social situations I was in where I was burying myself in my phone, and maybe like it was like an anxious thing of mine or whatever, but I was like socializing on my phone that I wasn't in person. And then the thing that got me, that everyone always said to me about me growing was, "Oh, you're so authentic, like you're being yourself." And that was my excuse for being online because I was like, "No, but I'm not being fake. Like I'm being myself." But if I'm being myself online, what's left over for when I'm off my phone?
Because the social battery, like I forgot, I was either talking to a client or maybe it was my boyfriend or my mom, but the other day they were saying that because I've been really into human design lately, and my human design like isn't very social, and I don't really feel I feel almost like this hermit in my real life, outside of my phone, but I think it's because I expend all of that social battery in the phone like you're saying, and you don't realize that. You could be in your room all day long like replying to DMs or commenting or whatever, but then, you don't want to go out to dinner with friends anymore at the end of the day because you're just so exhausted. And that I think is what people don't talk about nearly enough, like at all.
And we're also drained socially because of our jobs to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So what my schedule was I'm working in my suite 3 days a week. So at first it was 4 days a week. So I was
Mm-hmm.
working 4 days a week. After work on a Friday, I'd go home, I'd pack, I'd fly out somewhere Saturday morning, either teach or do a show or whatever on Sunday, probably Monday as well. And then I'd fly home either Monday night or Tuesday and get right back to work. So I was like getting off a flight and like throwing my bag in my apartment and then like going to work. And I was messing my clients up. Like I had never in my whole career, I'd never called out sick unless I had the flu, like I was a very hard worker and I was no excuses. And I was very much like dedicated to creating a really good environment for my clients, not only me coming to work, showing up, not rescheduling them. Like I had a reputation for never rescheduling a client. And then I would never also not really mess up their hair that much either because I felt like I was always on. And now I'm coming to work and I'm exhausted physically, emotionally, socially. I'm shot. So
And you're
now
thinking about like what you have coming in the future. You're probably like, shoot, I have to do this again, what, in like 3 or 4 more days.
but I also have to film content right now for this brand that needs a video by tomorrow.
Hmm.
And so now I'm filming all day and my clients aren't happy with it. Like as much as like they were cool with it, I'm sure they were annoyed that I was like putting a camera up for every little thing. And like I like feel guilty about it because I'm just, and I would like give away so much free products for people because I'm like, I'm sorry I'm being so annoying, but like I just felt like I was like just getting by. And I'm like waiting for people to start leaving me, like clients to be like, I'm over this, go be an influencer and whatever. And like I would fight that narrative. Like I'd always be like, but I'm not an influencer because I felt like I was a hairdresser. But then I'm looking at like what I'm doing and I'm like, I'm no better. Like this isn't the life I want. I don't want this.
Yeah, definitely. And I started being just snappy. Did you do that too? Just like I was never in a good mood, it seemed like, because I was always like high energy, high stress, high anxiety. Like my heart was racing a million miles an hour. And I just like no amount of caffeine or anything was going to keep me from just feeling this constant, I don't know, exhaustion. Like there was no amount of sleep I was getting or that I could get because I wasn't allowing myself to have the time to do it.
Exactly. Like I think I just caught up on sleep in the past 3 months. Like I've been sleeping like 10 hours a night since I had this awakening at some point. And this past month, like in the beginning of the month, I canceled everything. I
Hmm.
canceled all my education. I canceled all of my shows. Luckily I had support from the people that I was working with. The brands were understanding. Like I'm very, very lucky that I
Hmm.
have the support that I have. But like I was ready to lose it all. I was like, I can't do this. I cannot get on another plane. I can't go to another show because it was just becoming so superficial. And like I remember a show that I did. I I got on stage and I spoke for 6 minutes. And I was just like, and then we got off stage and we did a meet and greet. And I remember just feeling so like icky. I don't know a better way to explain it. Like I was just like, I got into this to bring value to people. And like, what value am I bringing if I'm only talking to you for 6 minutes? I just prepped a model the day before. I'm taking 5 days away from my job and my people at home to do this, to speak on stage for 6 minutes and then stand in front of a backdrop and for, like take pictures with people. Like, and there were people, and I'm grateful that people look up to me the way that they do. I don't ever want to seem ungrateful, but there were stylists coming up to me and like getting emotional over meeting me. And because I'm like a social media personality, But I'm just like, hold on. I do the same thing that you do. I go to work. Like I get up and I work. And I wear sweatpants to work actually. Like I am not, I just happen to post good videos that went viral. Like I'm no different than you are.
Absolutely. We're just freaking humans. I say that all the time because it is the weirdest. I don't know. Sometimes I just wish I could go back in time and speak to the younger me, like, and tell the younger version of me, like, what I'm doing right now. Cause, like you just said, it is such an out of body experience when people are coming and taking photos with you. And, like, at hair shows, they're like, oh my gosh, like, can we please get a picture? Like, sorry to bother you. And it's like, no, you're not bothering me. I actually love talking to y'all. But how about we
Yeah.
go like sit down and eat lunch together instead of just snapping a photo and then just like letting the line come through to continue taking them?
Right. I was like, what am I giving you just by taking a photo? Like, I want to talk,
I want to get to
like,
know you. I want to get to know you.
yeah.
And it's like what you said earlier about, you felt like you were yourself on your Instagram page. And so you were like, well, this is justifying it. But like you should be so proud too that you recognized it enough to be like, look, I don't care if I have to lose everything I've worked hard for. Like this isn't good for me. And I think that that's something that not to take lightly. Like that's a huge deal because you didn't allow yourself to get wrapped up in the tornado, so to speak, of it before you stepped out. You were able to see, the bigger picture of it. Like, what do you think that was? Just like, I don't know, therapy or what do you think really helped you see that?
A lot actually. Like, yeah, I wasn't in therapy when I had all of this happening, but I've had a lot of therapy in the past. So I think that's helped me like stay as present as I can stay. I've had some influences in my life, like some relationships that I have, friendships that have put things in perspective for me. But I also tried to be present in the moments that I was doing these things. And I was just realizing what I was doing. And that it wasn't aligning with me, and I was looking at the bigger picture and just seeing like my life passing by, and I wanted it to pass by at one point. I didn't want to be in the present. I was not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in a really really good place in my personal life, and I was missing it. And I'm like, what would I rather be doing? Like being on stage and for God knows what. Like I know some people are there for the education, but some aren't. And some people care about who I am and some don't. But at the end of the day, like I was like, what's my end goal here? Like, what am I doing here? And my goal was always independent education. And I did that and it was great. But the stress of like selling tickets and like the stress of like not having people receive your class well, like I taught a class in January and I later found out that like the salon owner just wanted exposure. Like they were like, why aren't you tagging us on your Instagram? And I'm like, is that all that was for? Like that's not what I'm about. If that's the case, like I'm going to go back to being a hairstylist and I'm going to teach people in my suite for free. Like I'm going to have people come and just like watch me work, because I'm not going to go here and spend so much energy to plan a class and pack my bag and travel somewhere on my day off and give my everything and give all my energy and everything that I know, and be like sat back like this and questioned and like, what do you know? Like, why are you standing up there? Or try to be tested at every single second that I have. Plus, then being like, oh, well, tag us on your Instagram. Like, what the hell? And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't have to do this. I don't have to be the next big thing. I don't have to be the biggest winner. Winning doesn't have to be getting a brand deal or winning an award or like being recognized by 100,000 people. What if winning to me is the 5 people that I keep close to me giving me validation and telling me I'm a good person and I've done something for them in their life today? Or what if it's someone's win is becoming a mom? And like if that makes me a loser to like want to be a hairstylist in Staten Island and do my clients and go home and make dinner every night, and that's me winning, like then that's me being a loser. Like then call me a loser, because that's just, to me, like we don't need to be measuring our success on brand deals, followers, likes, views, and the validation of strangers. Like, is it important to for some people to bring value and use social media as a tool? That's amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to win an award. There's nothing wrong with trying hard. But I think what this industry unfortunately has become is like, if you're not doing this, then you're not doing enough. And then we're putting pressure on the people that are in different seasons of their life or have different goals. And like my goal right now is to keep control of my schedule, set healthy boundaries, go home every night, make dinner because I love to cook, and go on vacation and spend my days off of my phone. And that's my goal right now. And what my goals used to be was I'm going to be the biggest educator. Like, I want to be the best hairstylist and do this and do that. Like, I want to be the best for my clients and for myself. And outside of that, I want to have more personal goals. And we don't talk about that enough. And it's just such a hustle culture that it makes me so sick.
No, it for sure. And what makes me sad, this is so random, but I was like before we got on, since I had never met you, I was scrolling on your Instagram page and just like researching or doing my digging, I guess. And I came across a video that you posted with a man in the mall that you were interviewing. What was his name? I forgot.
Peter is Peter.
Peter, yes, Peter. But that right there, in my opinion, is so much cooler than standing on a stage and talking for 6 minutes, just like walking up to a random person who's working at the mall who like was nice to you and
Mhm.
just hearing about their story. And that's so much of the reason why I started the podcast is because I, like you, I got so tired of having this elevator pitch in big groups of people because it's like, well, I have a lot more to say than an elevator pitch, and so does every single other person in this room. People who may never have the opportunity to get on this stage, they have a story that is just as valuable as mine or as yours or as anybody's. And I think
Mhm.
that, that video was so eye-opening to me. It makes me want to go just like walk around town because I can't tell you the amount of times that I'll go through a drive-through or something here where I live and I'll start, thinking about the person I talked to and be like, man, I wish I knew their story,
Yep.
because life is so interesting and we get so wrapped up in this digital stuff that we don't even take the time to appreciate it. Then what's going to happen when we're 80 years old and we're like, well, hell, our life's over now, Now we can't even
Yep.
get out of our house to go find a Peter to interview on our phones because we've just wasted our whole life away. And I hate to say that because I don't think that, like you said, I don't think anyone's goals are wrong. It's just the reason I love that post you made so much is just to show people that, like, hey, if your goal isn't what everyone else's is or appears to be, then that's okay.
Yep. It is.
Like,
And I speak to so many people all the time and they're like, I'm not doing enough. And I'm like, take take inventory of your real life. Are you thriving in your business? Are you fully booked? Are you confident in doing haircuts? Are you confident in doing color? Are you spending time with your family? Are you spending time with yourself? Do you have a hobby? I didn't have a hobby until like 5 minutes ago.
I don't even know if I still have a hobby. I literally, as you're thinking about, or as you were saying that, I'm like, I want to say I have a hobby, but my hobby is probably creating videos, which is sad. That is literally what I do in my spare time. Like,
That's what
that
I
is,
was doing.
that's nuts. Like, that is
And
not
I was
okay.
like, I don't want that to be who I am. Like, and the same friend that encouraged me to make this post and who called me out, she's a very, very good friend. She pointed it out to me. She's like, Mel, like, you will be good at anything that you put your mind to because you're a hard worker and you're going to learn how to be good at something because you can learn how to be a video editor. Like, I didn't just open my phone one day and edit videos perfectly. Like, it took a lot of trial and error, but I put so much, so many hours into it that it happened quickly. Same with doing hair. I sucked at doing hair at first. So I took every hair class I possibly could so I could get good. So I got good fast, but I didn't. I just did. I took more classes than the average person would have in a year, and it got me there faster. I grew my social media really quickly, but I was up at 6 a.m. every day. I was in bed at 1 a.m. and I was doing things in all of those hours. Whereas if someone else makes their time like 2 hours a day, maybe they are sleeping more, they're taking care of themselves more, like maybe they'll get there slower. But in like reality, we're all kind of getting there at the same pace, but it just might be at a different time. Like when I was younger, I took up voice lessons and I dedicated my whole entire life to becoming a good singer. And I studied really hard. But then there's also like, I played soccer, I quit because I sucked. I swam, I quit because I sucked. Like, there were other things that I didn't like, I didn't want to do, I didn't pursue. So the things that I choose to pursue, it's because I'm able to kind of learn how to get good at them and I get good at them. So my background of theater makes me good at being on stage. Does that mean I'm meant to be on stage? No. That just means I'm good at it. You know, like I don't mean to sound a certain way. It's just like just because you've cracked the code and learned how to do something, it doesn't mean you have to like it and you have to follow through. So I've tried doing independent education. That to me, I hit my goal. I went on tour last year. Instead of me being like, there's more out there though, why can't I sit back and be like, I'm so proud of myself? Like, I went on tour. And in 10 years, I can look back and be like, I went on tour and I sold 150 tickets in my whole tour. Why do I have to be like, but 150 is not enough? Like, I want to sell 1,000 next year, or I hit 100,000 followers on Instagram. Like, I can stop Instagram today and still be proud that I put work in and I gained followers and it got me brand deals. Like, I can say next year, let's say I don't want to re-sign with brands, not saying I don't, but let's say I can say I had 2 brand deals once. Like, how cool is that? You know, like
Mhm.
I don't think we need to always just be chasing the next thing. Like, we have to appreciate what we have. And I got those things because of the season of life I was in. I had the time, the effort, the energy, and the emotion behind wanting to be so successful to, like you said, like out of emotion almost, that it got me where I really wanted to be. And then once I got where I wanted to be and beyond, now I'm like, okay, like I think it's time for me to focus on me personally rather than me professionally because I can't always just work my whole life. It's not healthy.
Well, and there's never, like you say, when you get to a goal and then you sold 150 tickets, then you wanted to sell 1,000. Then say you sold 1,000, that wouldn't be good enough either with that mentality. Then you'd want to sell five. And I vividly remember thinking one time, like, if I can just get 10,000 followers, I will be so happy. My life will be so easy. This will just be enough. Then it was like, okay, just 20. Okay, just 100. Two, like there's never going to be that point until you come to the realization that you did. So it's just, I just love that. And I think that the more that we can just bring awareness to it in the industry. But you mentioned that you are now, like, you have a lot of boundaries with your phone and stuff. So what now does like a typical day or week look like with posting, as opposed to what you said earlier? Like you used to get on planes every weekend and post multiple times a day. Like, what are you doing now to really kind of have those boundaries?
So I've always worked with a social media manager, and her job was to post 4 times a week for me. So she would film for me, and then she would have 16 reels a month planned out for me. She would go on, post them. But I was posting 3 times a day myself.
My gosh.
So it was crazy. So, like, as much as she was posting, I was posting so much more.
Hmm.
So she's always encouraged me. She's like, Mel, like, it's great that you're doing that, but I can handle it. And I'm like, but I want to grow now. Like, I want to grow more. And she was like, all right. Like, she was never pushy. She just like kind of let me do my thing and whatever. And like, it worked. Like, our posts worked together. So it was fine. So I was posting 3 times a day, which, 7 days a week, which is actually crazy and
Uh-huh.
not sustainable. And if you do it, you're never going to be able to do it forever.
Mm-mm.
So now I had a conversation with the same social media girl, and I was like, I am ready to let you take the reins, and I will not be doing any of my own posting unless it's me on my story or me interacting. Like she won't be doing any of that. I don't want anyone thinking like they're speaking to me and they're not. Like that's not at all her job. Like I'll go on and check my DMs and like I'll look at people's stories and like scroll a little bit, but I am not allowing myself to edit videos unless it's something that like I need. She's going to be taking over, so we're just going to come up with a game plan of like what it looks like based on like my behind the scenes stuff that I want to be posting, like stuff with my clients or stuff that I have to post for any like deliverables that I have for the brands. But I'm cutting back in such a huge way. Like she's going to be doing those things that need to be done. And then anything that's extra and I feel like I want to do, I will, but I am not allowing myself to have an obligation to post. And I keep my phone. So I have an alarm clock, the Hatch alarm clock,
Okay.
and it's an app and you hook, like you set your time on your phone and then like it hooks up to your alarm clock and then the alarm clock goes off when you set it. So I've been plugging my phone in outside of my room every single night. So I can't be on my phone when I'm in bed and I'm not grabbing it when I first wake up. I'm waking up to my alarm clock and my phone's outside. So I will only go on my phone like a half hour before work to check to see if any of my clients have messaged me because I shouldn't be answering my clients at 7 o'clock in the morning anyway. I'm a business. I may be a solo person, but would you call a restaurant at 7 a.m. and expect someone to answer you about your 5 p.m. reservation?
Mm-mm.
No. So I'm only looking at my phone a half hour before I start my first client. I check it the night before to make sure all my clients have confirmed. So that way, if they haven't, I can reach out on my time and be like, hey, just making sure you're coming tomorrow. So just in case my first client like can't come or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that rarely happens. Like they're pretty good with that. And then I'm only scrolling on Instagram minimally. I'm not allowing myself to because I've read a lot of studies on the effects on your brain and how it drains your dopamine levels to scroll so much. And it has the same effects on your brain as doing meth does. I'll send you some of those. It's concerning and it's so bad for us what we're doing to ourselves just by looking at things because we're never ever fully satisfied. And then if you ever feel like you're in this like weird depression where you can't really kick it, but you don't know where it's coming from, it's probably coming from your phone.
Absolutely. And like, this is like, I posted every single day, once a day for 4.5, 5 years, which is also crazy. I mean, it wasn't 3 times, but it was a long time of doing it. And now, just like a month ago, I think, maybe 6 weeks, I stopped posting on Sundays. I don't go on social at all on Sundays. And now, like Sundays, it seems like the 24 hours take like 80 hours to go by. But every other day of the week when I am posting, I feel like 24 hours goes by in 5 seconds, you know?
Mhm.
Like days really aren't as short as they seem when we're scrolling through our phones all the time. And I can't wait to read those studies because like it the scrolling for me, I used to think it was inspiration, like, giving me like, I don't know, these inspired feelings. But no, it's actually probably the root cause of the comparison and the imposter syndrome and just thinking that nothing you're doing is good enough. And in a world full of talented creators and just like, I don't know, highlight reels out there, it's so easy to get wrapped up in that and start questioning yourself and just go down this spiral. And I'm curious, like, what is your hobby now? Like you said, you just recently started getting hobbies. Because I'm like, I could avoid my phone if I had something to do with my hands, like if I was drawing or coloring or something. But I am like at this point now where I've held a phone for so long that when I don't have it in my hand, I'm like, where's my phone? Like what am I supposed to do? And so I'm slowly trying to just like give myself permission to back away from that, but it's hard when you've been doing it for 5 years.
It is. And to your point of you getting inspiration. So one, my hobby is cooking. I love to cook.
Okay.
And I'm working with my hands and I'm like in it and I get so lost in it.
Okay.
But to your point of like the inspiration. So when you first opened Instagram, it was so inspiring. And as time goes on, it loses that inspirational feeling, but you're always chasing that feeling of being inspired because you know what it's felt like. So there's a video, and I'll send this one to you too. There's a few
Okay.
podcasts and a video that I'm going to send you. It's a basically like a cartoon of identifying like what drug addiction feels like in a cartoon form. So I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's this little
Mm-mm.
bird that is like running around, and it's a little cartoon bird, and it sees this yellow ball, and it sticks its beak in the yellow ball and sucks up all the yellow, and it goes flying. And that shows the first time a drug user ever uses drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bird like falls and like tumbles, but gets back up and is like fine. Then he's running along again and he sees the ball again. And he's like, oh my God, I'm gonna do this again. He does it again. He flies, but not as high, and he crashes a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens over and over again until he's just like kind of like leaping and he's crashing really hard and he's got nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
So forever, he's chasing that first feeling of being high, or we're chasing that first feeling of scrolling on our phones and being inspired. And we're getting these dopamine hits from like we're constantly being stimulated in our brain with all this stuff. We're consuming so much information that we're not really built to consume.
Mm-mm.
And we're never feeling satisfied because we're always looking for the next thing. So that video has really, really put in perspective for me. I've been watching it for years. Like it's been circling the internet, and I've always just been like, wow, like I'm glad I'm not an addict.
Yeah, glad I
And
don't do
now
drugs. And then you're like, shit, actually,
I'm like, my phone is a drug to me.
for
I mean,
sure.
I've really pulled back, and it's been easier for me because I've been like enjoying my life more. So I honestly put my phone away and I'm like not reaching for it. But there will
Mhm.
be times where I'm at work and I'm like, all right, I should really take a minute by myself in the back.
I don't know. I am so glad. I cannot wait for people to watch this. At one of my classes the other day, I literally said, what about the random thumb that pops up when you do that? And people were like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, wait, that's never happened to you? Happens to me all the time. So I love that
Also,
just happened.
the heart
Yeah.
will come up,
Yeah. It's like, what the heck is going
but
on?
only sometimes.
Yeah. Only sometimes.
But yeah, so we're all addicted to our phones, and I have really, for the past couple of months, like pulled myself away from it, and I've never felt better. Like I
Yep.
have more energy, I feel happier in the moment, and like I don't want to be on it. And that's why I've kind of wanted to pull myself away from it so extremely because I'm like, I don't want to, like, if I don't have to use this tool of social media the way that I was, why am I? I had a booming business when I had no followers and I posted once every other month. Like my client list has been closed for years. I've
Hmm.
raised my prices so much and it has nothing to do with my Instagram.
Yep.
You know, it's like,
It's because it's like that bird. Like I think that the follower count is one form of a drug, and then I think the recognition from brands and companies is another form because it's like we're trained from the infancy of Instagram of like, this is what equals success. But that's why as soon as I saw that post, I was like, I have to see if she'll come on because it's just like don't get so sold a certain narrative because of social media. Like, always refer back to what your why is and why you are doing what you do in the first place. And at the end of the day, like, everyone's is going to be a little bit different, and that's totally normal. Like, it doesn't
yeah,
mean that you're a failure or they're a failure or whatever. It's just like we all have our own like reasons behind it. And, it can look glamorous to be at the quote unquote top, but it's like, you said it and I said it. And I'm sure there's so many others that will say it. It is not the best place to be once you get there. You're just like, wow.
it's not. And if you can figure out like, Presley Poe,
Yeah.
she's like one of my favorite people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she does Presley Poe and Friends and brings her friends along to do her shows and to teach. And I've watched her teach, and she's so powerful and inspiring. And she commented on my post and was like, this is, I understand. She's like, but if I didn't want to be the driving force in our industry to change it, I would do the same thing you're doing. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, that's such a beautiful thing to want to do that because you sacrifice something for that.
Mm-hmm.
And Presley is the person to do something like that because they're very positive and very education oriented and wants to see other people win and sees things for what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect that so much. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to be there, be at the top, but it's important to understand, like, don't have an expectation of it being the best place in the world. Like, and don't look for that as your destination of being happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you should feel happy within yourself. And if you're not, getting to the top and getting Instagram followers isn't going to make you feel happy.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
got
And
to
I
feel
think
happy with yourself.
absolutely. And that's what I was going to say. I think that if anyone listening is, because I read through the comments on your post a little bit and I saw a few people that said things like, you know, thank you for sharing this. Like I constantly catch myself thinking like I'm not doing enough or I'm never going to get there or whatever. But I think that um taking time just to like go on a solo trip or to go for a walk without your phone and not with music in your ears or anything, just like by yourself. Like those are the moments, even like just in the shower, just in pure silence. Like those are the moments where you're really going to be able to connect with your why. And really just checking in with that periodically is so, so important,
Mm-hmm.
especially as the world gets more and more digital. But I think it's super, super important, not just for hairstylists, but for any industry. But I do think that our industry is going through the phase now because we were a little slower to the influencer phase. Like hair influencers
Yeah.
came after the fashion influencers and all that. So I think
Yep.
like this is our time to kind of I don't know, resurface a little bit and kind of refigure things out because so many people did get wrapped up in that tornado for so long.
Yeah. It's become an epidemic.
For sure. As soon as you send me that video of that bird for everyone listening, I'm going to put it in the description too of today's episode because I can't wait to see it. I'm sure people listening are going to be
It's
like excited.
powerful. It's very powerful. I'll send you the podcasts that I listened to that had the studies on the brain of
Okay.
the negative effects of social media. And then I'll send you the bird video because that just when I made that connection of like it's being addicted to anything and like the whole doom scrolling, like I'm like, oh man, I think there's a problem. Like I think we have an issue here.
Absolutely. And whenever you start to think like that 5,000 views on a video isn't good enough, that's when you know you have a problem. You know, it's like,
That's when you know.
yep, that is
It's
exactly
it's
right.
sick. It's sick and twisted, and my views are so in the toilet right now, and I don't care.
Me too. I don't care either.
I'm not in the algorithm right now because guess what? I'm in my life. I'm living my life, and the algorithm can go and do its own thing. And if I don't fit along with it, I'm okay. I'm more okay with leaving the algorithm behind than leaving my own life behind.
Yeah, because I don't have what it takes a second longer to engage for multiple hours every day like I used to. I genuinely, if that's what it takes to succeed in quotes, I can't do it.
Well, that's the other thing that people don't realize. Like when brands love you for being the most like having amazing engagement, but you have amazing engagement because you've given up every other part of your life, that brand wants you at that point that you're at. So
Hmm.
once you start to, I'm pulling away. My reach 2 months ago was 9 million.
Wow.
Now it's at 1.4, which is still great. I mean, that's phenomenal, but it's just slowly trickling, getting lower and lower, but I'm getting happier and happier. And I'm like, okay, if that's what it is,
Was it 9 million when you were posting 3 times a day? That's crazy.
yeah, it was actually the crazy. I was like, I didn't even know what it really meant. I was like, I know that's high. And then I saw people with like way bigger followings than me being like, oh, I hit 1.5 million in reach. I'm like, I had a brand tell me that, yeah, your reach isn't that good. And now I'm like, you suckered me. Like that was crazy. But I'll never get back there. I'll never get back there again unless I accidentally like have a video that goes like crazy. by accident, but I'm never going to try to get there because it just took everything out of me. I had no life in me. I just was a shell of myself.
Well, do you think though, real quick, do you think that it when it went from 9 million to 1.5 or whatever, did it at first feel like, I don't know, because I remember when I made a conscious decision to not engage like I was anymore and my page wasn't growing 10,000 every month or whatever, I remember feeling for a second like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst like thing I've ever gone through. But then like as soon as I experienced it, it was like, okay, thank God that's over. And it was almost relieving, but it was kind of that build up to finally taking the plunge and not continuing down that rabbit hole that was such a anxiety inducing.
I don't think it, I didn't feel that much anxiety about it because I knew that any feeling would be better than what I felt then. And I
Okay.
knew, and I've made so many decisions in my career that I felt this kind of anxiety that I was like, this is just another part of me, like raising my prices and losing a bunch of clients. Or,
Hmm.
you know, like it was just another version of setting a boundary where you're going to feel like you're failing at first, but in reality, you're going to win in other parts of your life. And I feel like I mentally prepared myself. And I'm really just so happy in my own life
Yeah.
that I was like, if this means that I'm more present, then that's awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to see that number go down. So I didn't have that, but I don't think if I think if I was younger, if I was like newer in my career, like yeah, it probably would have sent me spiraling and I would have been in the same spot. But there's a reason my Instagram took off at 28 years old instead of 23 when I wanted it to. There's a reason that all of this happened at this time because I'm able to handle it and I'm in a good spot too.
You are in a good spot. I'm 33 years old and you noticed it way sooner than I did. So that is
It's
like,
hard. It's new. We don't know about this.
it's a whole, it's just nuts. But I'm so glad that you shared that post and that we've been able to connect and that you came on here and just shared the truth behind all of the glitz and glamour we see online. So thank you seriously so much for that.
Thank you for having me. I This is the kind of stuff I love having a presence for because it's real conversation and it's real value. And this is something that I before we end, like I want to
Yeah.
point out to everybody like the things that have been the most fulfilling for me in the past few months have been the things that I've done on my own time. It's been the two podcasts that I've done, and these are professionally my professional things that have fulfilled me. Had nothing to do with a brand deal, had nothing to do with followers, and it had everything to do with just a real, raw conversation about experience. So thank you for having me on here because this is the stuff I really love to do.
Okay, y'all, that's it for today's episode. Be sure to follow the show on whatever platform you're listening and leave a rating and review to show your support so we can continue growing together. If today's episode really resonated with you, you can always share it to your story and be sure to tag me so I can personally thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you again next week.